What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Halal Wrist Podcast, man. Y'all already see who we got as guest today, Mr. Ehab, the Beast.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome.
Round of applause, man. Shout out Ehab.
Appreciate y'all having me, man.
No, for sure, man. What a time to have you too, man. We had to get the president of Sudan on here,
Ah,
So
my
it's
God, this all you, bro. This all you. You gotta chill.
you know what I'm saying?
Future president.
Assalamu alaikum. You gotta
Yeah,
give
you
it to
gotta,
the
you got,
fans
you
one
gotta hit it. Assalamu alaikum.
time. Assalamu alaikum. That's how you start
You
the
know what
video.
that mean when you hear it, you know?
Yeah, you already know, man. You know what I'm saying? But man, anyhow, we appreciate you coming on here, man. Halal Wrist Podcast, needs another Sudani cat. Shout out Sudan, shout out my brother you have. You know what I'm saying? Once again, Qasim is lonely.
Appreciate you, brother.
Uh
Of course. Of course. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry. Next
But
time. Next.
we appreciate you coming on, man. And go ahead, man. Tell the people who you are, man, and what you do. Where you came from and how you grew up.
Yes, sir. First of all, appreciate y'all having me, man. Halal Wrist Podcast. Yeah, I'll be checking y'all out, man. Y'all be having some real interesting guests out here, you know. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Appreciate you, man. So my name's Ehab. I go by Ehab the Beast on my social platforms. I'm an engineer by background, graduated from Texas A&M. Basketball player by profession and entrepreneur. Um, I'm based in Dallas, Texas, but I'm really a world traveler. You might call me today. I'm in Texas. You might call me tomorrow. I'm in London. You know, so
That's facts.
yeah, I'm also an activist. I'm pro Sudan. Pretty much just grew up around the Sudanese community in Dubai and just being active in all means, and then obviously very active during the revolution, and now unfortunately having to get back active during these tough times in Sudan. So just pro Sudan, anything to do with the development of Sudan. I'm also part of the Sudanese Diaspora Network, who's a group of youth and young professionals working on a sustainable Sudan long term. We pretty much bridge the gap between the diaspora and everything happening in Sudan in any means, you know, and we focus on unifying and mobilizing and empowering Sudan.
Mashallah, yeah, bro. SDN, shout out them, man. I recently did actually stand up for SDN.
Yes, sir.
No,
You didn't just do a stand up. My boy LT over
First
here,
ever.
man.
Man.
Legend. Yo, LT,
love,
it's
love,
about like
love, bro.
LT auctioned out like probably max 10 items.
Right?
And maybe the most expensive item could have been like $30. Out of the 10 items, LT raised $3,000 for us.
Say
Yeah,
he was
I gotta tell you, that day I was just
He was
going.
in his bag, bro. And then the stand up to
Love,
top it up, it was like the icing on the cake,
much
man.
love,
LT, you a
man.
legend, bro.
Much love, bro. Much love, man. But
kills.
yeah, shout out SDN, man. They definitely gave me an opportunity to do stand up, man. I went up there first time. I'm not gonna lie, like I told what's his name? G Solid. Shout out G Solid. I was like, man, because he's the one that asked me. I was like, man, I even give him. I was like, you know what? Let me answer you tomorrow. Let me sleep on it. I had to sleep on this decision, and then I was like, you know what, man? Who am I to say no, man? New
Right?
things. I gotta try new things. So it's
That's a
like, man, let's
fact.
go
That's
for
a
it.
fact.
Alhamdulillah, it went
You just
well, man.
started a career line for you.
Yeah, man. Nah, for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to doing more of Bismillah. But yeah, man. Shout out SDN and nah, even you. And you hoop, right?
Yes, sir. I hoop. I played in Mexico,
Okay.
Australia, New York. I played college basketball. Started in Chicago. Ended up in Texas A&M Commerce. Yeah, just been hooping pretty much since I was like 16, 17. So a little late bloomer. But I came to the States on a basketball scholarship around 2015. So I grew up in Dubai majority of my life. Started basketball late after high school, my first year of college. Started a little early at 17 with college and late with basketball at 17. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was just blessed to get a scholarship opportunity out here to come play basketball, and the rest was history, bro.
yeah, mashallah.
Yo, you said
Alhamdulillah.
you got basketball late. What influenced you to get into basketball though?
Man, honestly, like we used to play soccer in our neighborhood. I am 6'8", so LT's
Yeah,
like
I was like, hey, I don't know how tall you are. Yeah,
nah,
that's
yeah. So
Allah.
I
Yeah,
am 6'8", but I used to play football or soccer.
yeah,
So I was like Peter Crouch, the headers. I was a playmaker. I was really good at it too. And at some point in time, I got dragged out of it by my Sudani pops for, to focus on school. So I stopped playing sports for like a year or two. But I remember when we used to play in the neighborhood, we used to play in the outdoor basketball court.
Uh-huh.
Turn into a little 5-on-5 soccer. So the guys before us used to play basketball, and we used to kick them out and play soccer. On the basketball grounds.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so when I came early, I used to just play around with the basketball. So they invited me to this camp. I went to the camp, and it felt like I've been playing basketball my whole life. Over there, I met a coach from Chicago. Shout out Luqman, Rashad, and Impact. And the rest was just history. He took me under his wing and learned the game from him and ended up in Chicago.
Nice.
Allah,
Yeah,
mashallah. That's
yes,
basically.
sir.
I didn't even know that, bro. That you came here off a scholarship, or mashallah,
Yeah,
bro.
bro.
That was the one,
Yeah,
bro.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, bro. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I've just been blessed,
inshallah,
bro.
NBA, Bismillah, playing right there
Mm,
for your Lakers, right?
Inshallah,
Or,
inshallah,
or
brother.
Houston Rockets, inshallah.
Houston needs some help, huh?
They need big help.
For real, for real.
Join.
Man, Ehab, man, you mentioned you were activist. Yeah, man. As I've been mentioning in my stories and you know, trying to shed light on the situation we've been going through. I felt like this is a perfect time. Not that we're trying to like numb like people knowing who you are. We'll definitely get
No.
into that. And through this process of you talking about the situation, uh, what I'm saying, people will figure out exactly who Ehab is. So in terms of Sudan, I mean, I know, Bassem has an idea too, but let's tell the world, man, what's going on.
Man, so first of all, some things are bigger than yourself. So,
Mm.
and I always believed in that. And every time I got opportunity to speak about Sudan, I spoke with a high voice and made sure everybody understands the situation, whatever the situation was. So this is just one of those situations where, um, it becomes a sense of a purpose. So anything that Sudan, for me, represents me. So when I speak about me, I speak of Sudan. Um, but yeah, unfortunate situation in Sudan currently since April 15th. Um, Clashes or war, full-on war started in the capital Khartoum and other areas of Sudan like Darfur, Jenin, versus the Rapid Support Forces, who are the ex-Janjaweed militias. They're militias that came from the West, but were empowered by the government and in recent history, probably around 2013, and then against them fighting against the Sudanese armed forces. But the irony in this is that the heads of these two militias and armed forces were partners. So it was the deputy and the president and the vice president of the military council. And they pretty much orchestrated a coup. So there was Sudan had a revolution in 2019 by the people, and then the military kind of took over that revolution, and it was supposed to be a transitional period of 3 years before election. But
Uh-huh.
the military on the 25th of October of last year, they orchestrated a military coup and pretty much blocked the way of democracy for the Sudanese people. So since then, these two have been going hand in hand to overtake power from the civilians. And ironically, April 15th, after a month of pulling and pushing for power, they started a war against each other. And what's crazy about this war is it's a city war. So the militias were empowered and they were given like significant key sites within the city. So it's the first time that happens in Khartoum, a full-on war. A result of that war is over 600 people dying, um, over 5,000 injured, over 400,000 fleeing Khartoum. So our families, I know LT maybe You can relate. A lot of our families flee the city that they never leave. I was just talking to my grandmother, and my grandmother, we used to bring her to Dubai for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks and one day she wants to go back. She's done. And today she's calling me talking about, hey, we gotta go. Like, I gotta find a place to flee to. Um, but we're literally talking about airstrikes, bullets flying into houses, bombarding of banks, of streets, houses. I mean, you name it. A city war is something that we've never experienced. Our brothers in Darfur and South Sudan maybe experienced some of this, but we were so oblivious to it. But now it's happening to us, and it's kind of a wide awakening to everybody. But it's a horrific situation. The Janjaweed militias are robbing people's houses. They're robbing people out of their vehicles. The percentage of people who were not financially capable of fleeing Khartoum because of their economic conditions and the dire economic conditions in the country as a whole, who stayed there, are now terrorized by these militias. People are getting kicked out of their houses. The militias are taking over the whole house to store ammo, to get food and water. For the first, since April 15th to now, a lot of places like Bahri are going with no electricity for 3 weeks, no food and water. People are stuck in their houses, unable to flee. So it's a very horrific situation in Sudan right now. And it's funny because the only people who care, we're not even getting a lot of international recognition. It kind of just died down in the waters. Like we got the headlines for a couple of days, and then it was just in the back burner. But the only people rallying are the Sudanese people for this cause, and we're going to extents where we're helping people in Sudan from out here in the diaspora. So diaspora is playing a big, huge role, and we can get into that, of how people are mobilizing for people to leave, for people.
Somebody called him probably.
I think the government got.
Yeah, the government got him, but nah. What exactly what Ehab said?
There we go. He's back.
You know what?
I'll put it on D&D. My fault.
No, you're good. Last one was like, I was like, he probably got a phone call. Last one was like, no, probably the government got him.
Yeah, he did like that.
He is speaking facts, man. Subhanallah. We'll definitely get into that of how like SDN Sudan Diaspora Network, shout out y'all, are mobilizing and making sure we're doing our part here. But even in what you said,
Oh,
bro, it's like,
I wanted to say something too that came to mind. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you
go
off.
ahead, go ahead.
But when he said was, everything that's going on right now, it's like, it's ridiculous. But you mentioned the two groups that were like together. What caused them to split up, to create the chaos?
Honestly, it's just greed, corruption, and a fight for power. So one entity is a militia that was empowered by the ex-president, the ex-president Omar al-Bashir. He literally militarized a tribe
That's
against
what
other tribes.
I was gonna ask you to tell them like where this rapid force came from.
Yeah, so the rapid support forces, they're literally a tribe in West Sudan and Darfur, and the government had issues with other rebellion forces that were resisting the government. So what the government and Omar al-Bashir did is he militarized these Janjaweed militias, Himeti Mohammed Hamdan Daglo and his tribe, against the other tribes. So they slowly started growing by, I think, by 2013 they were like 20,000 in forces. So that's a relatively big number for a tribe to grow and be weaponized. Then in the meantime, they also got a hold of the biggest pot of gold in the whole world. There's a mountain called Jabal Amr, and they're pretty much the ones in control of that. And they transport the gold to Russia. There's investigations that happen. They control the borders as well, so they transport gold illegally to Russia, to the UAE. So they have a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of weaponry.
Okay.
But in 2019, when the revolution happened, the military kind of brought these forces in because they were out at the borders. So after they did what they did to Darfur and the genocide, they killed 300,000 people in total. Um, After they did that, they were kind of guarding the borders of Chad in the west.
Okay.
And then the military in 2019 brought them into to the city, into the capital, Khartoum, and kind of shared power with them. But ever since 2019 till April 15th, right before the war, it was a lot of clashes between the civilian, the military, and the RSF. The RSF being the militias. But the military and the RSF pretty much like um, where they were two of the same person pretty much.
Right.
They were going against the people. They were one crew.
Mhm.
And just because of greed and because of who gains power, the military wanted to kind of integrate the rapid support forces into the military, but they
Okay.
didn't want to do that. And by the time 2019 came, they went from 20,000 to 100,000. So now they're
Wow.
going head to head with the military that represents the country in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a lot of like threats happening leading on to April 15th, and then it just broke off. Everybody was hoping, like it was kind of in the back of our minds, kind of leading up to it, that this is a possibility, but no one wanted to believe it,
Exactly.
that this might happen, but it did, and it's cost us a lot. Like the collateral damage from this war is huge, and the biggest collateral damage being human lives.
Yeah. That's
So,
unfortunate, man.
yeah, bro. It's a crazy topic, bro, because I believe like each Sudani person, whether they be abroad or in, well, mostly abroad, that are worried about people back home, is like on their toes every day. So it's like it's a situation where it's like you feel like you have no control. You can't really do anything about it, physically. That being said, it's like it's something that you just have to be on your toes, pray, and wake up the next day and hope there isn't some bad news in the family group chat on WhatsApp or something. And that's if,
That's a fact.
you know what I'm saying, the message can even get to us on WhatsApp. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it doesn't, because there is no internet, like he just mentioned. There is no what's it called. So I mean, generally, it's like the rapid force is a losing team, right? And once you're a losing team, you have nothing else to lose.
Mhm.
And it's a country that even simple police force doesn't apply to the country right now. Nothing applies. Yes, maybe what's it called, but there is no safety. Is what I'm
Right.
trying to let people know. It's like you gotta like, just like Ehab said earlier, like I gotta sit here and understand in my head that my grandmother right now is in Sudan, and anything is possible. You see what I'm trying to say? Like anything is possible. And subhanallah, you mentioned the rapid force, the rapid force held by Hemeti, the vice president, right? Not vice president, but vice president of the military. What is it called?
Military council, yeah.
Council. Um, he did the same thing in Darfur. And as you have mentioned before, you know, we didn't think too much of it, right? Even
Mm.
though it was a massacre,
Are,
right?
can I ask y'all a question too? Because
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm like, I'm glad I'm starting speaking to you guys because I want to understand more of it, and not only this makes me want to understand either all other conflicts is going on in Africa, even in my country today. But
Mhm.
what what is let's say, are there any like outside countries or outside like superpowers that are playing a role in the conflict, or ben-
100%.
Of course,
100%.
of
That's the whole
course.
reason.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
goal you were talking about. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, man, it's like just the Horn of Africa. You're from Eritrea too.
right,
Ethiopia, Somalia. On the other side of the pond, you got Yemen. All these places are places of conflict because of how like the geographic location of those places is literally in the Horn of Africa, which
right,
connects the east to the west. You
right,
know, Sudan. Eritrea, Ethiopia. These are places that are fertile. You can drop a seed on the floor and it will grow to a tree. You
Right.
know, we have the largest river in the world. Water is going to be a crisis very soon here in the world. You know, agriculture is going to be an issue. Livestock is going to be an issue. Gold is going to be an issue. Uranium is going to be an issue. These are all resources that Sudan has in abundance.
Yeah.
Sudan was once called the fruit basket of the world. You know, Sudan, if grown properly, agriculture sector can feed the whole world. You know, people didn't know Ukraine was the biggest wheat
Yeah.
producer in the world. You know, until the bread prices went up and the bread became scarce, and now everybody's fighting Russia over Ukraine. You know, but Sudan is that. Sudan is the future of this globe. You know, so ever since all the way back in history to colonization and the English people coming and colonizing Sudan, they've seen the value in it.
Yeah.
But in more recent history, with Hemeti and the RSF and Burhan and the military, they've been backed. They've been backed heavily by the Saudi Arabia, by the United Arab Emirates, by Egypt, by Russia, by the U.S. There's
Backing.
so many parties of interest in Sudan, and every entity is pretty much making love with two or three countries that are backing it. Whether they're backing them politically, whether they're backing them with money, whether they're backing them with resources, with weaponry, like Hemeti and the RSF are getting direct ammo supplies from Russia through the borders of Libya, confirmed. You know, the military is getting money, is getting love from Saudi Arabia. You know, and UAE is just playing whoever's winning. So it's we're kind of stuck in a limbo where there's so many countries around us that want to control the future of us. Because if Sudan stands on its feet, it'll be a world power. You know, and that's been against us for decades and decades and decades. I could go all the way down in history, way before independence, and talk about colonization and how that was huge. You know, we kind of lost him there. Like, and that's just something, you know,
Yeah,
just for everybody listening. You
yeah,
know, any country that you see a war in, just understand that there's a lot more than what you just see visually. It's so much politics and so much dirty work that goes behind stuff like that. And it's just horrific, man. It's just the thought of it, and the thought of how much corruption this world has is crazy. And the expense of who? And the expense of innocent people, you know, who are
man.
working hard for bread, water, just to make ends meet, you know?
And it's crazy. It has to get to that point. Like, even if you do wanna, you know what I'm saying, steal goods, what's it called? Do it at an expense where it doesn't affect people. Like, have some type of, you know, fear of God.
Humanity.
I mean, hey, nowadays
Yeah,
God is a question too when it comes to people. For real, like you
it's a
gotta
fact,
ask if
bro.
you even believe in a God, right?
It's a fact, bro.
But
Yeah.
but technically speaking, with Sudan, it's as you mentioned, Russia, UAE, and it's like, as much as I feel like, and that's why we don't get support, because as much as we're doing everything we can in forms of building fundraisers, hosting events, doing something to get people to see the light of the crisis in Sudan, they're somewhat the cause, so they're not trying to dim what they already started.
100%.
They're not gonna, you know what I'm saying,
It's a
put
fact,
out the
bro.
fire that they lit up, which just makes me wonder, like, from this point forward, like, what do you believe? I mean, it's not that a solution, because at this point we all have a common denominator. It doesn't apply to no army. It doesn't apply to no RSF, Rapid Support Force. It just applies to well-being of simple citizens, such as our families, our parents. And one family ain't just my family. But whole Sudan citizens are my family. You know what I'm trying to say?
100%.
It's like the same as
100%,
any
bro.
other country. It's just more about being human.
No,
This
facts.
Brand would say,
Facts.
we're human first before anything else. So it's like, it's just not seeing the support, you know, and And I'm not saying we're not getting the support at all. I've seen Ethiopians or Eritreans. Ethiopians, I think, were protesting for the cause, and even we had a protest at DMV right in front of the White House, and they ended up coming too, like with the whole
Mm-hmm.
banner and everything supporting, and they understand like the cause because like in terms of how when they were down, they got to get to Sudan. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, and the thing is, all this false info going, and the one that's saying, "Oh, this, that." It's just tough. It's tough. It's tough, and I'm glad we're here today to like bring light and shed light to the situation. In terms of what we're doing now, I mean, I know, but some of the things like let's talk about some of the things we're doing online. Us Sudanese people abroad, we're literally taking care of bus locations to tell people in Sudan. Mind you, while there might or might not be internet for us to send a message to somebody. Or so go ahead. I'm gonna let you
100%.
go depth with that.
100%. Yeah, bro. I think just to start off, we're not getting any international support in terms of the humanitarian crisis that's ongoing in Sudan. Um, but like you said, some of the reasons behind it is some of these governments are actually benefiting from this conflict, the ongoing conflict. So they don't really care for it too much. They might even send humanitarian support, but it's like when your enemy feeds the military and the RSF weaponry, and then feed the people with medical supplies. It's like, what's the point in that? But currently, during this humanitarian crisis, the diaspora is playing a big role, and I will just mention a few things that we're doing as a Sudanese diaspora, people living outside of Sudan, and then I will mention how everybody else can help,
Right.
and because we need that, and then we're all we got right now. And as much as you want to help a whole country by crowdfunding outside of Sudan, some of it might be a little bigger than us, so the humanitarian aid is necessary. Um, so the Sudanese diaspora, since day one, they started mobilizing, helping people find different connections, safe routes. I might tweet something from here to let somebody know where the safe passage is because my cousin, who I called 5 minutes ago, told me that their neighborhood is clear. So that is, and literally, you can look up your neighborhood on Twitter or find people who are relatively credible sources that'll tell you, okay, this passage is safe. There's this clash is happening here, and it was on the minute updates of what's going on in Sudan, and you can relay that message to your family back home. Your family needs water, food supplies. You can find somebody on Twitter that surround them that can supply that.
Right. And
So,
like,
in terms of mobilizing, we've done an incredible job. I don't think it's any other diaspora of any other country in the world that's capable of doing what the Sudanese people have done in
mashallah,
times of crisis, mashallah.
mashallah.
So that's one thing that the diaspora is doing. The second thing the diaspora is doing is obviously raising a lot of awareness. What we're doing here, not just me and LT, but it's hundreds and thousands of Sudani people doing that within their smaller circles, letting people know and pretty much amplifying the voices of the people back home and the crisis that's happening. Over awareness, we're advocating, right? We're sitting down with government officials. Me and a group of young members of the diaspora went and sat with the Department of State. I know in Virginia, you guys had a group that went and sat with the Department of State and USAID. So we're advocating. We're talking to our senators. We're talking to our senators and congressmen, right? Congressmen and women. We're advocating and pretty much amplifying that voice for people in Sudan. And the most critical thing that we're doing is we're crowdfunding. Welcome back.
I'm back from the technical difficulties. My bad, fellas.
No, you
No,
good.
you're good. You're good.
He's just talking about basically like what the Sudan diaspora has been doing to what I'm saying help out with
Okay.
what we're doing outside like abroad. You know.
Pretty much
Yeah.
raising awareness, advocating,
Yeah.
and I think the most important one, LT, and the last thing is raising funds. And I'm going to take this
Fundraising.
opportunity to lead people into some credible fundraisers that we know are targeting people who are in these war torn regions or people who got stuck in borders mind you, over 400,000 people so far, and that's just an estimate. We don't know the exact number, but over 400,000 people got displaced. A lot of them got stuck in the borders of Ethiopia, the borders of Egypt, the
Yep.
borders of Chad, the borders of South Sudan, and the conditions over there are dire. I mean, we're currently working on a project where there's a hospital close to the border of Egypt that has 15 to 20 patients that are dialysis or kidney failure patients that need dialysis treatment that didn't get it for 3 weeks. If you guys know anything about dialysis, you get dialysis treatment 2 or 3 times a week. If you don't do that, it's just toxic particles overflowing your body. That's just a death note. So currently we're working with SDN and an organization on the Egyptian side of the border to provide these medications for the hospital to treat this 15 to 20 people with the dialysis treatment, and for it to be a hub for dialysis treatment for anybody fleeing Khartoum into Egypt, where they can stop there, get their treatment, and continue with their journey. But the situation is dire. You know, people in Khartoum, people in Jenaina and Darfur, there's no, like, the resources are depleting. Whatever resources a neighborhood has, it's running out of it, and there's no way to go and get more resources into a neighborhood, for example. So there's no food, there's no water, there's no
Because
access to electricity in a lot of places.
like just imagine that. Like I just want to mention in that part is like there's no way to get resources because we're ducking and hiding from um RPGs. Yes. Like this is live. This stuff is happening as of right now. And even the stuff you mentioned about the borders. It's like people with what? Diabetes, high blood pressure. Like literally how many hospitals in Khartoum in the what's it called are have been closed?
80% of hospitals in Sudan are non-operational.
Non-operational.
Wow.
So imagine
And
that.
not just that, but the RSF are also clearing up hospitals and using them as like warehouses for ammo, you know, where they go and restock. Imagine a hospital turning into a ammunition warehouse, you know. And it's easy. Like a lot of times, I catch myself just talking, trying to educate the people, but uh, it's so hard to process. You know, it's easy to say, but it's hard to process.
Right, because
You know,
why? Just look at it in terms of this. Like we right here, Hassan, right? We're right here. And this goes for all, the fans, everybody that watches this, but imagine everything you do now. Like forget Sudan for a second, but let's put it in perspective of us in their shoes. Right here in the US. Let's say the US gets invaded, bro. I don't care regardless. And like imagine that you were in the like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're taken out of the home that you grew up in. You're you know what I'm saying? You're ducking from bullets. You're and obviously like that's you can't really feel it as Zahab just mentioned. Is as much as I want to talk about it, what's it called? I can't feel it because I'm not them. And
it's
that's
hard
where
to process.
it's hard to process, and that's where the guilt comes in. But at the same time, it's like, as I tell everybody I've been talking to since the situation happened, is as much as we've been given this opportunity to be here, it's like we're gonna use the hand that we've been dealt and put it in the right place.
Bro, I remember back in 2019 when the revolution happened. I was so keen to go back home and be in the front lines with my brothers and sisters fighting for
Same,
democracy. And I
same.
remember telling my pops and my family, like, hey, I'm booking a one-way ticket to Sudan. I'm not coming back until we have a civilian government.
Right,
I clearly remember that. And survivor's guilt was haunting me and stuff like
right.
that. But I remember my pops, God bless him, he mentioned something. He's like, the work you're doing from the outside might be of a greater influence than the work that you would have done on the inside.
Inside.
And I think that's important to note and important for everybody that's Sudanese and non-Sudanese helping with the situation to understand. It's a blessing in disguise. You might not feel like it is, but your role from outside Sudan is way more effective, way more important than the role you would have played being in Sudan. A lot of people in Sudan are stranded. They can't do nothing. You have the privilege of being able to do something about it and assist those people who are in this situation currently. So it is a blessing in disguise when you look at it from that lens. It makes you want to do the work, you know and it's all hands on deck, man. You know, I spoke to a few friends sometimes where they feel like, you know, we're young bloods. Like sometimes you feel like, hey, bro, like what I'm gonna do about it? You know, what can I
Right.
do? You
Right.
know, they feel helpless. But bro, trust me, if LT, Qasim, Yato, just the 20 people around you that you hang out with on a day-to-day basis, that's you've done your job. You know, if you put in a pot like, hey guys, we're gonna donate to Sudan, everybody put $10. There's $250 going to a family that needs it.
Yep.
So I tell people all the time, like, we belittle how much we can assist, you know? And it's the smallest things. It's the $10. It's telling your closest friend who's not
Yeah.
Sudanese. It's the smallest things that make the biggest impact. Because if everybody does these small things, they build up. You know.
Build up.
Mm.
It's just like they see.
I recently, I just remember something too. Like today, I just saw on CNN that it said U.S. is planning on deploying military to Sudan, right? So since there's a conflict, it's like a, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a tribal, not a tribal war. That's the beginning of it, right? But more so, there's two sides. There's different sides that's involved, right? Who's U.S. like aiding if they're going to be involved? Like I was surprised when I don't, you know, I didn't.
So there was like so you know there's been a lot of talks of ceasefire. You know, the international community is saying, hey, stop the war. They're talking to both entities, the militias and the military, like, you know, cease the fire, stop, make humanitarian corridors for the humanitarian aid to come in, and they've agreed to these ceasefires 7 times already,
Yeah.
and none of the ceasefires were honored. They were still fights. They were still
Yeah.
tearing down houses and neighborhoods, and
Mm.
and just like nothing's off limits, bro. Like they're looting, they're raping, they're killing, they're destructing. It's just ridiculous, you know. And that's all of that is happening from the RSF militia side. But then the military, again, they can't deal with the situation because it's
Yeah.
gotten to a point where these militias are inside neighborhoods, inside houses. So
Mm.
now the military is facing them with airstrikes. You know, you can airstrike a tank that's in front of my house, but my house is getting affected too. You know,
Right.
people's legacies and houses and efforts are all down the drain. Banks are getting robbed. Factories like the Coca-Cola factory in Sudan got bombed. I'm not
Right.
sure if it's verified yet, but I think even the airport got hit pretty bad, you know, in the first day and then recently yesterday. So nothing's off limits for these guys. And the
Mm.
international community, to come back to that, called for ceasefire and it's not being honored. But today, the USA and Saudi Arabia are kind of playing middlemen
Right.
between both sides. And today they signed the agreement saying that they're gonna cease fire, allow people to leave Khartoum or leave the cities where clashes are happening, like Junaina, Khartoum. Uh, they're gonna step out of neighborhoods. You know, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. We hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they said they're gonna step out of neighborhoods. They're gonna stop destruction for public entities and
Okay.
stuff like that. But you never know, bro. You know, they signed the agreement today. They put the ink on it, but honestly, we
Yeah.
got so used to like documents being signed and nothing being honored to
Yeah.
where an agreement like this doesn't really, like, to me. I'm not even, I didn't even post about
You're
it,
not
bro.
really optimistic about the situation.
Bro, I didn't even post about it. You know, I post
Yeah.
updates and I'm always trying to give people the actual
Yeah.
uh, you know, circumstance of the country, but I'm not optimistic about it at all, bro.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of international
Because you know that that agreement doesn't like solve the root of the problem. It's just to cover band-aid it up for a little bit, you know.
at all. And some might argue this is just giving both parties more time to load up their ammo, you know,
Right. Exactly. And
the situation just escalating and elongating, like, you know, we never thought it would drag. When it first happened, I thought it was going to be a couple of days and this is done. You know,
yeah.
one of both parties is going to raise that white flag, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it's we're 28 days in, you know, it's scary.
Yeah. It's like it almost seems like I don't know why. It almost seems like the conflict there's there's no optimistic outcome like you kind of mentioned, but I know this is the wrong way to take in information, right? But I saw an Instagram video, and it was a dude. He was just talking about Sudan, like U.S. and Russia, they're also aiding both sides of the conflict in a sense. And I'm like, well,
You're talking about the guy in the beach,
what do they have to do with it, huh?
the guy that was recording in the beach or something like that.
It was like that one African dude. I don't know.
African,
I
yeah,
don't know who he is. I don't even know his facts. I'm just saying, like, I just say that, like, stuff. There's a lot of information out there, misinformation. You don't know what is.
he was talking about Africa. He was talking about like it's just like
But he was
it's,
talking about the conflict in Sudan,
yeah.
for example.
Well, you
But
have to saying earlier about goods and how like it's just against those countries regardless. Like with Russia, UAE, Saudi being a part of the conflict.
yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah,
Right?
and there's always a reason, and even with the what's it called? I actually have a story. It's like even with the just the to like process, like the what these people are going through. But my uncle's wife, she's here. They're here. Thank God they're here in Texas, actually with y'all. Yeah, and his wife's mom was basically she's there. They have like a place in Egypt, so they're going to borders. You know what I'm saying? So they can get to Egypt. And Subhanallah, her mom. So she has a special ed brother, right?
Mm.
And and they were going on a bus. They were actually going to a stop. They were going on a bus, and they were going to the borders to get to Egypt. And as they were going there was a stop in between somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but there was a stop to pick up some more people or something like that. So what happened was when they stopped. Oh no, this is what happened. The special ed, her special ed, his name is Mahmoud. Mahmoud, uh, her brother, he needs a what's it called, a visa to get in,
Mm.
right? Which is what they've been stopping people about. People are fleeing, right? Not as refugees, paying with their money, the bus fare, getting to the what's it called to get into another country just away from the bombs and the, you know what I'm saying, the bullets and all that with their money, not refugees. But generally, they need the visas. They're making it even harder because they're making them get visas regardless of what the situation is. Like I'm trying to run away from bullets, bro. Trying to save my life. You over here worried about a visa? Let me get in, bro. I'll pay for the visa, whatever. Let me just get in to the border. I don't want to get sent back. So, anyways, they go to this one spot to go get the visa. But she had a neighbor that went with her daughter, right? So her mom had a neighbor that went with her daughter. So she's with her son, special ed Mahmoud, and her neighbor is with her daughter. So her
Mm.
neighbor and her daughter keep going with the bus, but she stops somewhere to go get this visa. And while they go get this visa, Mahmoud, um, her little brother, he ends up getting lost.
Oh wow.
Oh my God.
He ends up getting lost, and with his situation, it was just crazy. Phone calls to police officers in that area. At least it was away from the city, the area they stopped at to get the visas. Long story short, 2 hours after something like that, they found him. Somebody brought him to her.
Mm.
Come to
Mm.
find out, this is just the hassle of traveling, right? Just trying to get to the border, right? Come to find out, by the time they got back on a bus to go to Egypt, her neighbor and daughter has still not made it to the border. And they went on the bus that was straight to the border. What did that bus do? That bus ended up going to, literally, they said it was like desert,
Oh my
a
God.
desert area, and told people this is where I can go. I can't go further. And had this woman walking like, I'm talking about like miles
Oh
with
wow.
her daughter just to get. So they stopped to get their visas, and Mahmoud, thank God he was found, got lost. She got the visa. She ended up getting on another bus, waited a couple hours for another bus, got to Egypt, and her neighbor has still not made it.
People
From
were
how,
waiting for days, bro, at that border. People were waiting
yeah,
for days. And Qasim, just to think about it, they say refugees so much. You know how
Yeah.
much people paid to get out of, like, only the privileged and financially capable were able to leave.
Yeah.
A bus fare was $600 a piece.
dollars. not pounds, like
dollars
these
a
pounds.
piece. And then not only that, people, when you leave in Sudan, and probably back home for you the same way. When we say family, we're not talking about the small family, 3 4 people. We're talking about 25 30 people. You're
Right.
talking about a whole bus. You know how much the whole bus cost from Khartoum to the borders of Egypt? $16,000, bro. People had to come up with $16,000, bro. People in the U.S. can't come up with that, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, if you have an emergency right now, you got a sixteen
Come
thousand
up with
dollars. A lot
60,000.
of people are gonna scrape up,
Right.
you know. So it's a situation like, bro. A lot of these people are not refugees, They paid and they got where they needed to go. Um, so it's kind of ridiculous the thought of that. Like, hey, you calling them refugees, you closing up the borders, you making it hard for people to get in. All the borders around Sudan closed up in a situation like this. Think about
Yeah.
that. You know how many refugees are in Sudan? Over 1.3 million people. Sudan opened its doors for different countries when it was a critical situation for them, and
Yeah. A
and
lot
that's
of
what
air to Sudan, during the war. So
yeah. So and that's what we're getting in return. That's
yeah.
what we're getting in return.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And on top of all of this, it's like it's not ceasefire is not working. There's no ceasefire. Like as much as we want to talk, talk about people trying to flee, and there's some that don't. There's some like we both have families that are still
Bro,
back
my
home.
whole family is still back home, bro.
Right. Exactly. So I have some that left. I have some that chose to stay because they're like, okay, we go where we gonna stay? Like, bro, it's just insane.
So
And then on top of that, how is the go ahead, Ehab.
Yeah, I'm just saying the hassle of travel too, bro. Like for me, my grandma is taking care of my late uncle's children, and then my aunt and her newborn. So it's like the thought, like even if we're capable to send them money or whatever or they're financially capable to do it, it's the hassle of being on a bus for 12, 13 hours and then getting to the border and then having to stop at the border for 5, 6 days. No food, no water, no toilets at the border. People couldn't like people were sleeping on top of their bags, bro.
Literally.
There's no gas, so bus drivers close up the or turn off the engine. No AC. You're in the middle of the desert. It's
uh,
like I said, bro. It's so easy to say it, but it's
Hey,
like imagine you experiencing that. Like
experiencing.
this is crazy, man. And
What are
we
we
never
doing?
like at some point in time we never thought this was even imaginable. We've seen it in other countries, but we couldn't really process it or see it from their lens. And now we are, and it's sad, but we're really rallying to get this crisis to end as soon as possible.
That's the part that hits. Yeah. And even
Yeah,
it's just more about even our main goal right now is the safety of lives. Not the country will come rebuild it. There was it's more about people's lives. If this fire can just stop, that's the common denominator. And on top of that, I was gonna ask you to speak on fundraisers and
yeah.
basically
I think that'll be a good place to send people and kind of conclude so everybody kind of understands where Sudan is, what the situation is. Spoke a little bit about how you can help in terms of advocating, mobilizing, raising awareness, but the biggest of all is donating. Right now, there are a few organizations working on the ground, credible organizations, credible fundraisers. There's SAPA fundraiser, the Sudanese American Physicians Association. They're American registered 501c3 charity that's working in Sudan. Currently, what they're doing is they're reviving hospitals. So 80%, 85% of hospitals are non-operational. So people that need dialysis, people, women giving birth, just day-to-day life-threatening conditions are not being able, like people, doctors and hospitals are not able to accept these patients. So what SAPA is doing is it's reviving hospitals mainly for maternity care and for dialysis. I was just speaking to the president right before I got on this call. Mashallah, alhamdulillah, they were able to raise over $250,000. But when you think of that in the context of like a country, it's not enough. So we need to give it a push. So the Sudanese American Physicians Association, LT, if you can share that link with the listeners, that'll be amazing. So it's one that's one fundraiser. The second fundraiser is the Home Tax Fund SD. Home Tax Fund SD. It's run by Mazen B. Mazen is based in Australia. However, he has a team of young guys just like us, who are willing to actually risk their lives and go help a family that hasn't had food or water for a whole week. I was talking to a friend, and they had a pool in their backyard, which there's not a lot of houses with pools in Sudan, but it got to a situation where they had to boil the water from the pool to drink it, bro, because they were stuck. So what Mazen B and his friends are doing are actually supplying the real needy people who are really struggling amidst this time with just basic resources, food, water, supplies like that. So that's another one. The third one is the Sudanese Diaspora Network. It is fundraising, like I mentioned earlier, to help the hospital in Wadi Halfa become a dialysis hub. They currently have 15 to 20 patients who haven't had dialysis treatment for over 2-3 weeks, since probably April 20th when they fled Khartoum. But their long-term plan is to make that hospital a hub for dialysis for anybody leaving Khartoum. So these are organizations that are currently working, currently on the ground. Whatever you pay, whatever dollar you spend is going to be felt on the ground. And
Also,
I think
let them know about
really let them know about what?
the Eyes on Sudan Blue for what's it
Oh,
called?
yeah. So for more information, eyesonsudan.com or the hashtag keep eyes on Sudan. Hashtag keep eyes on Sudan. You find all the information that you need. If you go to the website, eyesonsudan.com, you will find all the resources in terms of awareness, advocacy, fundraisers. Everything you need to know about Sudan is all compiled in that one website, eyesonsudan.com.
Yeah, that will all this information will be in the bio for sure, of the episode. It's a it's a long fight. We've had the revolution since what year? Was it
2019.
2019? I was gonna say 18.
Yeah, late 2018, December
18, right?
2018. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been a long fight. As Ehab mentioned earlier, in terms of Rapid Force and Army being one entity, and against the protesters and all the martyrs that passed away. May God rest their soul. Um,
Allahumma ameen.
it's just a long fight, and with this episode I wanted to make sure, like, the message, the most credible message was sent, and thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Real,
Appreciate y'all for using the platform, man. That's amazing.
of course.
Man.
It's a lot of misinformation out there. I actually even had a lady, I remember, that heard me talking Arabic. This was in DC, that heard me talking Arabic, and she was like, "What language you talking?" And I was like, "Arabic." And she was like, "Oh, I'm actually trying to learn that." I was like, "Yeah, I pretty much got it because I lived in Sudan."
Mm.
And it's like she was telling me. I only bring this up to say that it's a lot of people that, like, aren't getting the most credible information, the most,
Misinformed. Yeah.
misinformed. And she was telling me that her mom, she's a white lady, like white, right? And she told me her mom is actually praying for Sudan because she's been on in the news hearing. But I then explained to her basically in short what was going on, and she hit me with that is not at all what she told me was happening.
Mm.
Because obviously she was looking at the news, she was looking at specific things that didn't portray
Yeah.
the right message. But I just wanted to
And
make sure, yeah,
it's hard. It's hard sometimes because there's so much history behind it. So like
But
when I'm just looking at it from other people's perspective. When I just look at the news and I'm like, okay, two entities fighting. You don't really know the background behind it or the details.
yeah,
It's kind of hard to process,
yep, I do.
and the news outlets can only do so much,
Right.
and they're not doing the best job. But I feel like we can cover that. We can
And
get that covered.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
resources are out there. If you want to know more, you can find more. You know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the hand we're dealt, man. Ehab, we appreciate you, but we don't want to hold you any longer. I want to make sure everybody understands that this isn't a yo support or abort type of mission, but it's more about you know what I'm saying? We'd appreciate everyone's help. You know, Sudan is really
100%.
going through it, and we're going through it, as I mentioned earlier, day by day. This is been a long fight for us, and it's just that we hope the best for our families and people as a whole, not just our specific bloodlines, um, and just the safety of our people. You know, as much as anybody would for their own people. You know, um,
100%.
and
yeah.
inshallah.
Oh, sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
My
No,
bad.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you guys are currently in contact with family over there. Are they saying how are they describing the ceasefire though? Like right now, like is it? It's still
It's
not.
not. It's not. It's not working. It's not working. We hear ceasefires on the news, and we call them, and you
And
can hear bullets on the background. You
yeah,
know.
man,
Yeah.
Even people posting on Eid. There's like, I mean, it happened right before Eid, like in
It
Ramadan,
did.
right? It
I
started
should
then.
have mentioned that. Yeah, it
Yeah,
happened in Ramadan,
in
in
Ramadan.
Eid,
oh, wow,
People celebrated with bullets and bombs and airstrikes, and
man,
And last
there
Ramadan
was
also,
and that happened last Ramadan
dang,
too. It's like
you
we could
think
barely catch a break, bro.
anniversary. That's what they were trying to do.
you think like on the outside looking, you think they're celebrating, so they're gonna take the day off at least, both sides. But it's like
Oh
what?
no, on the
Dang,
Eid, I seen a guy. You know when you go on Snapchat, I actually went and checked, and you go to the map, and then you go see like a hot spot in a specific country. You see the
yeah,
Yeah,
what's it called? Yeah, I went and seen, and there was this one guy actually literally walking to the Eid prayer, and as he's walking, pull, pull,
wow,
like
dang,
I'm talking about, like it's like they're so nut. And the thing is, like Sudanese people are like they're just getting so numb to it. As Ehab mentioned earlier, it's like all these signings that we heard before. It's like to a point where it's like you don't feel anything towards it. Like, okay, it's supposed to excite you. Oh, civilian government is gonna have a
yeah,
the civilian government was actually supposed to have in the signing or something like that, right? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Right
yeah,
before this started, which is why they were gonna combine the rapid force and the military together, so the civilian government can know each entity on its own. You know, it wouldn't be the rapid force and the army. No, all as one. They were trying to combine the two, as he mentioned earlier, and you know.
what's the civilian government? Is that people elected or what is that?
it's just a coalition of political parties. So just different parties that represent different people and
Different tribe?
ideologies and stuff. Yeah, not more of tribes, more of ideologies.
Okay,
And then you also have the rebellious movements that rebelled against the government back in the day, who are now also part of the government as
mm,
as their own political entity.
okay,
Yeah, and then you have the rapid support forces, and then you have the military. So
yeah,
all these people getting into conflict, and the thing is, like, even these political parties who were once unified on one stance to overthrow the president Omar al-Bashir and overthrow the government,
right,
once they saw the cake, everybody wanted a piece, was fighting for a piece of the cake. So we don't know whether to get it from the politicians or from the military or from the RSF or from the rebellious movements. It's like we're getting it in all directions and we're right in the middle, you know?
man. So hey, let me ask you this last. Maybe this we could like be the last question then, maybe, but maybe a controversial question. But what do you think would have been like Sudan better off with having what's his name, the former leader,
Bashir.
Bashir?
Omar al-Bashir.
Bashir still there, or kicking him out and like this creating
Bro,
like
I mean, this it's not a hard question to answer, but it's like given the situation, like Omar al-Bashir and his government, is a dictatorship.
right,
Like 30 years of corruption,
Of hate and
30
fear.
years of hate, 30 years of genocide, 30 years of this illegal, unsolicited extraction of resources of the country. You know, like
Piles of
when
them, bro. I'm talking
when
about my room. Piles.
when Omar al Bashir got
How did he?
When he got, his room was full of like
That's crazy.
stacks of
Country's money. We
I
could have
people's money, you know.
Dubai before Dubai. Dubai used to look up to Sudan.
How did he get into power? 'Cause, you know, I'm getting a whole history lesson of Sudan, low key.
Oh, this needs a whole another hour episode, bro.
Give him a
Seriously,
quick, what's it called?
seriously. So pretty much there was a Turabi who was like a political leader and an Islamist leader, pretty much with the Islamist wing.
Okay.
So they kind of overthrew. It was a military coup. They overthrew the previous president, but
Okay.
then Turabi used Omar al-Bashir because he was an army general. He put him in power. So he's like, here, you got the weapons, you got this, but I call the political shots. Then Omar al-Bashir, after he got power, he flipped on Turabi, put him in jail, you know. And ever since, it's just a circle of stuff. So for 30 years, the one thing I would say, and this might answer your question if it's better, but with Omar al-Bashir, because so the National Congress Party was the party that he was representing, which pretty much hid under the curtain of Islam and Islamic brothers. But man, you know, they put a bad rep for Islam. You know, they were just using Islam for all the wrong reasons, you know. But these people, one thing about them that I could give them credit for is they were organized. It was a pyramid. You know, it was an unbreakable pyramid for 30 years. Nobody could move them, you know. So because nobody could move them, they had everything intact. Security was intact. Resources was intact. Sudan was under sanctions for God knows how long. Omar al-Bashir, the president, was on sanctions, but the country still operated. Now, if these people weren't greedy, if these people weren't corrupt, Sudan would have went far places. Are they better than the people now? They're the same. To me, they're the same. Was the country in better hands in terms of organization? Yes. But does that mean because the organization was better, the people just sit back and take all the atrocities and all the corruption? No. You know, so like, we were willing to sacrifice that, you know, and be here today and continue to sacrifice until we get a democratic government, a government that cares for the people, that will translate the resources of the country into the country, not into the pockets of people.
100%. And it's just like as he mentioned, it's like you taking off the headmaster, and now the kids are all scattered. They don't even know what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? They've got this responsibility that they can't handle or even know what to do with, because technically Burhan, general of the army, and Himiti, general of the rapid force, they were both right under
Omar al-Bashir.
Omar al-Bashir. This is the residue. I tell people this is like the residue of what we try to take out.
Had them in line, like in check, then like they're their leader like loose. Like that's what it sounds like.
Exactly. Omar al-Bashir was the leader. They ate. They weren't complaining. They were getting country's money. But just now, Hemeti, they ran up on a location called Jabra in right. One of his houses is there. Also piles. That's other than the Umar al-Bashir one. You saw that one, right? You have the dollars. No, bro. That's the thing people don't gotta understand, bro. The dollar in Sudan is like almost 600 something pounds, I think, as of right now. 600 something pounds, right?
Where's
something? You said what?
Where's Bashir? Where's he at right now,
bruh?
Didn't he escape somewhere?
You don't know. People are saying so here's what happened too with the situation.
We're gonna close that.
Just left.
I got you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, he left.
No, you know it's crazy. Like when the war in classes started, they're like all the jails and stuff, the prisons. They're like we can't guarantee the safety of our prisoners. So let's just open up the prisons and let them go. So all the prisoners were let go. But then the army came out and said, no, Bashir didn't escape. He didn't flee. He's currently under detention in a hospital, Aliyah Hospital. But obviously, bro, you know, if
Oh no,
we're coming,
technical difficulties, man. My bad, guys.
yeah, I'll just repeat it for him real quick. So what
Yeah,
happened is when the clashes happened, so Bashir and his leaders, political leaders, were in prison, right?
right.
Kobar prison. So when the clashes started, the guards of the prison were like, "Hey, we can't maintain our safety or the safety of the prisoners." So they just let the prisons open. Uh,
Mm.
Huda prison, Kobar prison, all the big prisons in Sudan just let all the criminals go out. So then the military was like, "No, Omar al-Bashir is not in prison. He's under detention in a hospital, Aliyah hospital."
Oh
But
wow.
we just know that's fugazi stuff, bro. It's like,
Oh
they're just saying that to say that. That's your leader. You got the opportunity, and now he's probably out in the open, somewhere
yeah,
safe.
Nope.
yeah.
For
Um,
sure. I don't. I don't.
yeah,
I
it's
don't.
great.
I don't doubt it at all.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
trust me, bro. And at the same time, it's like just to think of that too. Prisoners out, like other than the rapid force who are losing and don't have anything to lose. Robbing, running. You know what I'm saying? Killing normal civilians. Same with prisoners. Prisoners that been put on death row are out.
Mm.
Like, come on, bro.
yeah. It's crazy, man. It's in
Yeah.
all aspects. We could sit here and talk for hours about
Hours. Yep. Yep. We can't.
about what's going on right now and the history behind everything. Speaking of which, LT, I think I'm doing like a YouTube series. Like I had this idea for a long time, and hopefully, inshallah, once things calm down back home and this ruthless war stops, inshallah, like there's an idea of like just creating a YouTube channel that speaks on the history of Sudan in details, but just to kind of simplify it and make it savvy for all the
Right.
young listeners to
To
be
hear
able
it
to
out.
comprehend, what the history is, what led up to Sudan now, all the key players ever since independence and even before independence, just
Yep.
historically. And I think it's important for all of us to get educated on the matter. It is our country by the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true though, man. A lot of people our age, man, like we don't know the history of our countries. Like even me, I've been recently getting into the history of my country, like what led up to where it's at right now.
Mm.
Because like back in the day, before, I'm talking about thousands of years ago, there was no borders like it was now. It
Yeah,
was more so one piece of land. So even Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, it was Abyssinia at one point. So like
yeah,
even from then, those kingdoms, what led to the separation, like all those little things, it connects the dots. I feel
everything
like it
connects.
connects everything.
Everything connects.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
want to. They say you want to know the future. Look at the history.
exactly,
And that's a fact.
That's
That's
fact.
a fact.
That's fact.
History repeats itself indeed.
for
Anyways,
sure.
yeah. But no, I appreciate. I'm glad you even mentioned that. Definitely, we'll talk. We're already in touch, and we'll talk in terms of inshallah, everything going smooth. As he had mentioned earlier, everyone, we appreciate y'all for watching. Everything he mentioned in terms of fundraisers and how you guys can support will be in the bio. Um, it's a long fight, as I've mentioned plenty of times now, and we really appreciate everyone's support. And may God, allow the safety of our people more than anything right now. And
And protect our people and protect our land, inshallah.
yeah, inshallah. Ehab, man, I don't want to hold you any longer. Ehab
Yeah,
will definitely be coming on another episode in in
For
in,
sure.
in better terms, inshallah,
in a
and
better
talk
situation,
about
inshallah.
Ehab himself. He a hooper, man. I telling y'all, bro, he be in the
I
gym.
got
He
got
he, he
buckets.
he's the
I got
activist. He wasn't
the
the
activist.
I say he was
I
the
always
other
tell
A
people, I'm a hooper by day, activist by night. So
by night,
you could
Good
get the
balance.
ankle snatched or you could get on a poster. You know what I mean?
right? You can get on a poster, man. There's gonna be plenty of ways. We'll see plenty of versions of Ehab, inshallah.
Inshallah.
He'll
Inshallah.
definitely be on again. As of right now, that's the message we have today, and that's the message we want to send out. We appreciate everyone listening, and as always, and that's what's gonna help us through this fight with Sudan too. When the prayers go up,
The blessings
Blessings
come
come
blessings,
down.
down.
and then may
Yes,
Allah
sir.
Yeah.
bring the blessings down in Sudan,
Allahumma
inshallah.
Mm.
ameen.
Y'all,
Allahumma ameen. Hey man,
everyone.
I really appreciate y'all having me. I really appreciate Halal
Oh,
Wrist Podcast. I really appreciate y'all using the platform. There's so many people that are quiet about this.
yeah,
And just you using your platform out here, just
of course.
like
Class again
I
gone.
want, yeah. Like I appreciate it. Everybody appreciates it, and it's just the right thing to do. Inshallah, I get the opportunity to hop back on, talk some
No, for sure.
basketball, talk some halal
Easy,
wrist.
easy.
But I really appreciate y'all for doing this, man.
No, for sure, bro. Much love, man, and shout out you, SDN, and everything you work for. You have I specifically made sure I got you for this topic because
Appreciate
I
it, brother.
you on your A game, bro. And then
Appreciate it,
inshallah,
brother. Appreciate
Allah, we
it.
see a better Sudan where you're on the president's chair, inshallah.
Allahumma ameen, inshallah.
There we go. He said I mean this time.
Hey, it's one of the joints in Eid. They're like, inshallah, said Jai Harisi. I mean, it's one
So
of them.
I mean, you just using the pass by. But say less, Qasim
You
already
never know.
said
Hey,
peace.
nothing's. It's all up in the air, bro.
Yeah,
We're not
inshallah.
rejecting no blessings.
All right, bro, we doing a lot over here, and we're gonna be doing much more. Y'all see it, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Qasim already left, but this is from me and Ehab. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum.